So everybody, it is 6 o'clock. Welcome to Feature Friday, and we're going to get started. And the first thing on the agenda tonight, last week we were talking about that dynamic the dynamic walking foot. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk already. But this is what that looked like, and the part number for that was BLSAWF, right there. That was last week. This Friday night, we're going to explore some of the really cool features on what a lot of our baby lock machines come with, and that is the digital dual feed foot. It is basically a computerized walking foot because it plugs into the back of your machine, and the computer in your machine actually coordinates and synchronizes the speed of this belt that moves the top layer of fabric in accordance with the bottom feed dogs on the bottom layers of fabric. Super fun, super cool, and I'll tell you tonight why this is my favorite foot. Out of all of them, if I had to pick one I could not live without, it would be this one right here. And I'll explain why. But before we do that, as most of you probably know, or if you don't, if you're a new owner, what's really great about this foot, the digital dual feed foot, and there's a new one out that'll be available shortly as soon as it comes into the dealers, but it's called the compact digital dual feed. So that being said, I'm going to swap the camera. I have this attached. Before I do that, though, I want you to look at this. See this lever right here? If you've never used this lever, you can leave this attached to your machine. With the lever down, the computer controls that motor-driven belt. If you raise it, right like that, it raises that belt so it doesn't touch your fabric. Then it acts as a regular presser foot. Why I love this, just with the flick of a lever, I can go from digital walking foot to just a regular presser foot. And I'm going to show you how that works. Okay, let's get over here. Swap that camera. Okay. Here we go. Wake it up from that screensaver. Move my keyboard out of the way. Now, as you can see, I have this attached, and I have the regular sole plate on it. So these are interchangeable. If you just lift up on the very front of it, they'll just pop right off. And then you can swap them out. You don't have to use a screwdriver or anything like that. And what we have is, this comes with it. This is the standard walking foot, the sole plate. It's just like a regular, it's kind of like your J foot for the digital dual feed foot is the best way to say it, I guess. There we go. A little more light. And then you can also buy as additional feet a 1/4-inch piecing foot. I use that one a lot. Stitch in the ditch, or you could also use this for edge joining. And this is an open-toed foot, great for those decorative stitches. What I use this foot right here for, everybody, this is how I attach my quilt binding 90% of the time. Okay? If you bought a Solaris, this came with it, is a couching foot. If you don't have the Solaris, you can buy this foot for an additional purchase, such as if you have the Altair or the Crescendo, so forth and so on. Okay. So I'm going to attach my 1/4-inch piecing foot. Most of you know I am a quilter, and that's what I use my machines for 90% of the time. Even when I'm doing embroidery, it's probably going to be relating to my quilting in some form or fashion. Now I have some little squares cut here, some scrappy squares, and I have the lever down, so now this is a computerized digital walking foot. And I'm going to go to the Q menu, and Q-01, that's my piecing stitch middle. So right there, it is set up for a perfect 1/4 inch seam because this has the edge guide on it. And yes, I could turn on the needle beam lights and all that stuff. And if I wanted to do that, all I would do is touch this, and there, I just have the one turned on for where the actual needle drop is. But if I go over here to the sub menu and turn that one on, I'll get a double line. Just a minute here. Oh, there we go. There we go. There's my double line. See that on my finger maybe? See, I got a red and a green. I can make those any color I want. But now if I line up the edge of my fabric and I have the edge set with green, the needle, where the needle will actually drop, is red. And I'm just going to drop my presser foot. And I'm going to stitch. Now this has, with that lever on the side of the walking foot, I have this set so it's a computer controlled synchronized feeding system in it. Let's speed that up just a bit. There we go. You can see I have a perfect 1/4 inch seam right there. Now, if I wanted to swap over and just use this as a regular 1/4 inch foot with only my bottom feed dogs working, all I'd have to do is just lift this lever up right there. That just disengaged that belt, and now it would work in the same way as you were just using a regular presser foot. And the point I'm trying to make here is this: you don't have to unattach this one. You do not have to take it off in order to use just regular sewing mode, whereas all the other walking feet, you have to remove it completely from your machine. I have been doing a lot of serging. That is why I am actually cutting, letting my fabric run off and making a long tail. I've been serging for the last week pretty heavily. So as you can see, either way, I have that perfect 1/4 inch seam. Now here's the thing. Fabrics that are slick, they'll want to shift. So the top layer may shift down, or the bottom layer may shift down. And with that digital dual feed foot, there's a way to correct that. And I'm going to come over here to our screen, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So let's say, let me get a different colored piece of fabric. It'll show up better. Wasn't thinking about that. Let's say I've sewn these two together, and the top layer had shifted down. Okay, so what I would do to correct that, let me turn that off. I go into settings, and then on the Solaris, we would go to dual feed adjustment. If you have a digital dual feed foot in your settings menu, you will have the opportunity to adjust it just like you do on this machine. It might be on a different page, but on the Solaris, it's page 2. So when I tap that, notice the default is right here on 0. So if I go to a plus number, I can go from +1 to +10 or -1 to -10. This controls the speed of the belt on the digital dual feed foot. So by looking at it this way right here, the top did not pull through at the same rate as the bottom. So for here, you'd want to increase it. If your top layer has shifted down from the bottom layer, it's not moving the top layer fast enough, so you'd want to do a plus number. If the opposite is true, where the bottom layer has shifted down, the bottom layer has shifted down, that means the top layer is moving too quickly, and you'd want to go to a minus number to slow the top feed down. That's how you can fine-tune your digital dual feed to match the fabric that you're sewing on. That was a mouthful. Gosh, I hope that made sense. Okay. And what I really love about this foot, this digital dual feed, is this. Not all the time you may not want to quilt in the hoop. I know I don't want to always quilt in the hoop. I really like to I'm a tactile person. I like to feel the fabric in my hands. So maybe I just want to stitch in the ditch. Maybe I have some piecing here, for instance. Let's lay this on, right on top of this. And now I have a seam line right here. And we're just going to put the metal plate on that stitch in the ditch foot right on top of that seam line. Drop our presser foot. Let me unplug my foot control. I'm off to the side for the camera, so there we go. Now I'm just going to slow it down and hit the start button, and I'm just going to guide that foot so that metal guide is right in that seam line. Easy peasy. Now we'll cut it. Should turn the pivoting on too, I guess. There we go. But as you can see right there, it's stitched down into that seam line right here perfectly, nice and straight. And that's how you can do stitch in the ditch using the digital dual feed foot. You may not want to do that on a really large quilt, but a smaller quilt makes it super easy to do.